We are back. You are chatting with John P. Today, I'm going to be switching it up a little bit and talking about a brand that I believe watch collectors really should focus on a little bit more because of the quality as well as the aesthetics that come along with this watch brand. It's going to be Daniel Roth. I will talk about that in just a second, but once again, please do not forget the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and you asked for it, so you are going to get it. I'm going to be incorporating some macro shots from our photographer here of some watches that are from this brand, and I think that we really captured kind of the essence behind it just so perfectly shot in, I think some of the shots are actually 120 frames per second, so we could slow it down and take a look at that tourbillon that just looks gorgeous. We'll get to it later in the video, but once again, you can check out delraywatch.com. Full disclosure, where we do have some Daniel Roth watches and honestly hundreds of other watches of every other brand under the sun. So sometimes people say, oh, why do you make videos of watches you have in stock? So I can get video footage and pictures of them, of course. And we also stock the things that we love, Federico and I, from Federico Talks Watches. So the brand Daniel Roth. Daniel Roth is a luxury watch manufacturer that in modern times just does not receive a lot of attention. It gets almost no attention, especially from seasoned watch collectors and of course, amateur or more novice watch collectors. But I believe that this brand is extremely deserving of more attention, especially from watch geeks and savants. In this video, I'm going to be doing some close-up shots as well as explain some of the watches and why this brand needs to be on your radar. This brand started with one watchmaker, Daniel Roth. Roth was born in France to a family of watchmakers. His grandfather and great-grandfather both were lead watchmakers in their city. Roth's grandfather had a small watch shop with repair services, and it was here that he began to learn the trade at a very young age. In 1967, after years of experience with his family repairing watches for the local communities, Roth set out with his sights on bigger and better things. He was selected by Audemars Piguet, where he ultimately worked his way up the ranks, displaying his technical prowess. At this pinnacle of his watchmaking career so far, the watch industry executives began to take notice of his accomplishments. Roth was poached by Breguet and began to focus on complications and design. Here, Roth stayed 14 years until finally in 1989, he launched the brand Daniel Roth with his own namesake as the company title. Keep in mind, this was the back end of the quartz crisis and the Swiss watch industry was still recovering. There was not much room for new watch brands selling high-end independent watches. The industry was more centralized around a few luxury brands compared with today having hundreds of brands, many of which are independent and still maintain huge followings. The brand succumbed to financial problems and luckily was salvaged by a private family office out of Asia, which also owned Hourglass, an authorized dealer. Ultimately, the brand just could not keep itself afloat, faced with too much competition and mounting financial stress. Bulgari purchased the brand in 2000 and paired it in a workshop with Gerald Genta, which also shared a similar story in the way the business and brand played out. Currently, Bulgari owns the copyright to the brand and uses the designs and styling cues in some of their watches once in a while. Daniel Roth himself has a new brand where he makes bespoke ultra high-end pieces in the vein of Kari Voutilainen and the like. So here we have a Daniel Roth skeleton chronograph in gold. I personally love this watch. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and I hope that I am able to capture just how beautiful it really is here on video. As you can see, it features the blue hands, and that really provides a lot of contrast against that eggshell dial, as well as you can see that it's open face as well as skeletonized, which really adds a little bit of avant-garde design to what would be otherwise a very classical, almost Cartier-esque watch, albeit a chronograph. As you can see, the case itself has different steps. It's a layered design, and that's something that Daniel Roth is really known for. I also like how the top side of the movement is also decorated with perlage, when most of the time you really just don't get that in movements, let alone chronograph, which are sporting movements at the end of the day. Next, we have a Daniel Roth Masters Tourbillon Retrograde. Now this one, absolutely exquisite, especially considering that it is a tourbillon, is high-end manufacture. You can see that beautiful guilloche dial and the slowed down image of that tourbillon spinning is absolutely gorgeous. This watch also features that stepped Daniel Roth design with the retrograde on the dial, and of course a little bit of a splash of blue with both the power reserve indicator on the back, as you see here, as well as the date indicator on the front and the running seconds above the tourbillon. Of course, it features also Breguet numerals, which, much like the previous watch, is very classic, although the watch does have some bit of modern design elements. So, guys, what do we think about the brand Daniel Roth? Did you like the watches? Do you think that perhaps you would consider them in the future? I can share with you that I think that the watches do deliver a ton of value, especially compared to some of the other brands in their category. I will say that depending on the Daniel Roth you look at, of course, I did show much higher end pieces. There are some more affordable options from Daniel Roth. There are some time only or time date or some of the other less complicated versions of watches from the brand that can be had at a few $1,000s, sometimes even $2,000. And I think for what you get, it's just such great value. And that's one of the things that I always like to convey and I always give as advice is in pre-owned, not only is Daniel Roth a great value, but there's so many other watches out there as well, and some watches that I will be covering in the future. If there's anything you would like to see, please leave in the comments below, and do not forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. You have been chatting with John P. Ciao.